itself also hasn't decided what the tariffs are going to look like. So I think it's important to start with a couple questions. As we're anticipating tomorrow, and take it from an old trade policy hand. First, what I would want to do when I see the announcement, right, is just bring the heart rate down, take a look at what's on paper and what they're saying. First, what's the legal authority that they are invoking? And is there a legal authority they're invoking? That's really important because increasingly we are seeing from this administration a willingness to buck the rule of law. If there is a legal invocation in what's announced tomorrow, then let's take a look. What is the invocation? If it's about international economic emergency powers, that probably does create a basis for a pretty immediate application of those tariffs. If it might be some other legal framework, it could take some time to establish the basis for applying those tariffs. Second, look at the scope of the tariffs. What's the product scope? Is it on everything under the sun, or is it focused on sectors and specific industries? Next, the scope of countries that it's on. Is it on everybody who trades with the United States, or is there a focus in terms of where the tariffs are directed? Third, what level are the tariffs? Now, are they nice round numbers like 10, 25, 50? Yeah. Are they 17, 19? What that's going to tell you is whether or not any economic analysis has gone into the design of those tariffs. Okay. And then finally, I think the main point is there an architect's blueprint that is guiding what's coming tomorrow? What is the purpose and what is the plan? Is there a house that we're trying to build? Is it a factory that we're trying to build? Or is it all just a giant performance of drama?
Well, we've been asking these questions every day for weeks, just like you, no answers. But let's stick with the metaphor for a moment here. If you hit somebody with a 2x4, a pretty blunt instrument, they're probably going to hit you back. And we're expecting that also to come after these announcements tomorrow. Case in point, the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, reaffirming his plan for retaliation. Let's listen.
As I also mentioned to the President, I was very clear, we will respond to additional measures. So we will put in place retaliatory measures if there are additional measures put against Canada tomorrow.
There's not only the response from our trading partners like this, but you saw the first economic dialogue between China, Japan, and South Korea last weekend. What does this all lead to from a geopolitical standpoint? Even more than a trade standpoint.
I think even from a geopolitical standpoint, what you need to be looking for is what is the stated purpose or what is the inferred purpose of these tariffs? Quite often what you hear from the Trump administration is that everything is in service of negotiating an amazing deal. So a couple questions there. A deal also is just a tool in furtherance of some larger objective. So what are the purposes of these deals that may be negotiated? If you can get agreement around an objective, quite often in international economic cooperation, in geopolitics, when you negotiate an agreement, it's usually because there's some fundamental purpose that the parties have agreed they're going to try to accomplish together. So when you start laying down these tariffs and you start having retaliatory tariffs placed on you, it really calls into question, what is it you're trying to accomplish? And if you don't have a meeting of the minds, what's going to be the purpose of any deal that you strike with another partner who doesn't agree with you in the first place?
Well, one of the things the president has suggested he wants to accomplish is bringing down trade deficits with other countries. Is it realistic to even imagine a scenario in which the U.S. didn't have deficits with some of these very large partners, or there were no barriers, tariffs or otherwise?
So, I think that this really brings to light one of the most important and challenging trade relationships that the United States has, and that's with the People's Republic of China. There you do have an enormous deficit from the side of the United States and an enormous surplus from the Chinese side. What you also see is that the United States overall runs a goods deficit in its overall trade balance, whereas China runs a significant trade surplus. So we have the two largest economies in the world, who are playing two very, very different roles in the world economy. One is the world's manufacturer. The other one is the world's consumer. And you can see how those extreme types of roles that you're playing can lead to imbalances and friction and geopolitical tension. One challenge that I see here, and one question that I would pose for the first 2 months and a couple of odd weeks in the Trump administration, is the degree to which the U.S.-China trade issue has really taken a back seat to this show about tariffs and reciprocity and the application of tariffs on countries like Canada, the countries of the European Union, and Mexico, all trading partners that the United States is going to need to find ways to align with if we're going to take on the common challenge of this outsized production force that is the Chinese economy.
It's great to have you with us on this day before. Katherine, former U.S. Trade Representative in the Biden administration, we thank you for the insights. Coming up, the